I'm Cannonbolt. I'm a senior English major from Fergus Falls, Minnesota. I started as an electrical engineering major. I loved the department and the faculty, but then I took some English classes through the Honors College and realized I also loved the English department and reading and writing and all of the research opportunities I got to do there. So I added a minor and then a major, and then eventually decided to graduate with an English degree before finishing my engineering degree. I love to travel. I think we're living in a really exciting age where space travel is more possible than it's ever been. If travel to Mars becomes a possibility in this lifetime, I would like to be one of the first people to go. What I like most about being a graduation speaker is having a chance to address all of the students and faculty that have made my last 4 years so special. They really have enriched my time, and it's nice to be able to say thank you to them.
Introducing the 2019 graduating class from South Dakota State University. Today's graduates represent a broad range of academic disciplines, some traced to the university's earliest days and others developed in response to the needs of the state and region. Founded in 1881 as the state's Morrill Act land-grant institution, South Dakota State University improves the quality of life through exemplary teaching, relevant research, and connected outreach. South Dakota State University is located on the ancestral territory of the Ochete-Shakowee, an alliance that consisted of the Santee, Yankton, and Teton Lakota. The full land acknowledgement found on page 5 of your program serves as a reminder that before this site was called SDSU, it was home to Native nations indigenous to this location. Under the leadership of Dean Lynn Sargent, candidates in the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences are led by their banner carrier, Professor Christy Garst Santos. Under the leadership of Dean Jill Thorngren, candidates in the College of Education, Human Sciences are led by their banner carrier, Assistant Professor Cody Christensen. Larson, members of the Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College are represented by their banner carrier, Professor Amontao Perumal. under the leadership of Dean Jane Mort. Candidates in the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions were led by their banner carrier, Program Director Stacy Lansing. leadership of Provost Dennis Hedge. Faculty are led by Marshals, Associate Dean Teresa Seedfeld, and Associate Professor Tyler Miller, and by their banner carrier, Associate Professor Brittany Meyer. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Under the leadership of President Barry Dunn, the Platform Party is led by Honorary Marshals, Associate Professor Nancy Lyons, and Professor David Graper. The mace carried by Dr. Graper signifies the authority and pageantry of academic ceremonies. Honorary Marshals lead the processional in recognition of distinguished service to the university. Information about today's speakers and Honorary Marshals is printed in the program. Dr. Lyon spent her entire teaching career at South Dakota State University, starting in 1977. She has been a staple in the now Fashion Studies and Retail Merchandising department. Her courses span from textiles to trending and buying. She has led numerous travel study courses, taking students to market centers and preparing them for careers. Upon retirement, Lyons will continue to teach for the Great Plains Interactive Distance Education Alliance. Dr. Graper has served the Agronomy, Horticultural, and Plant Science Department since 1990, where he started in the SDSU Extension and was named the Director of McCrory Gardens in 2005. President Dunn, Regent Mickelson, distinguished guests, members of the faculty, administrative leadership at the university, graduates, friends and family of the graduates, and ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the 2019 commencement ceremony of South Dakota State University, which will now be in order. Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors by Army ROTC cadets Jacob Burton and Kadora Buck, and Air ROTC cadets Gavin Doring and Benjamin Williams, and the playing of our national anthem by the symphonic band. Please remain standing until the colors are posted and the anthem finished. You may be seated. Please welcome the President of South Dakota State University, Barry H. Dunn.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my privilege to serve as the 20th President of South Dakota State University and to welcome you to the university's 133rd commencement, a special day of recognition and of celebration. And what a spectacular day for a graduation. Thank you all for being part of it. More than 1,600 undergraduate students have completed degree requirements during the spring semester, bringing the total number of undergraduate degrees conferred this academic year to more than 2,800. This afternoon's ceremony is for students receiving an associate or baccalaureate degree in the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions, the College of Education and Human Sciences, and the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. Students receiving associate or baccalaureate degrees in the College of Nursing, the Jerome J. Lohr College of Engineering, and the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environmental Science, and the College of Natural Sciences were recognized at the 10 a.m. undergraduate ceremony this morning. Students receiving master's degrees, doctors of philosophy degrees, doctor of nursing practice, or doctor of pharmacy degrees will be recognized in the graduate ceremony at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you again for coming. We are very pleased that you are here. As you can imagine, an event like this relies on the collaboration and efforts of a great many people, so I'd like to briefly recognize a few of them now. The Joint ROTC Color Guard, our admission ambassadors who served as ushers and greeters today, Associate Dean of Pharmacy, Teresa Seefeld, and Tyler Miller, Associate Professor of Psychology, who served as faculty marshals, assisting the students and faculty in the processional this afternoon, and the Symphonic Band under the direction of Jacob Wallace, Assistant Professor of Music, and Kevin Kessler, Director of Athletic Bands. Please help me in thanking them for their contributions to this very special day. I also want to thank our Honorary Marshals who were introduced earlier, Professor Lyons and Professor Graper. Will you please step forward? Please join me in recognizing them as well. It is now my pleasure to introduce those members of the platform party participating in today's ceremony who will not be introduced later in the program. I ask them to stand and be recognized, but please hold your applause until all have been introduced. Dean of the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environmental Sciences, John Killefer. Interim Dean of the College of Nursing, Roberta Olson. Dean of the Jerome J. Lohr College of Engineering, Bruce Bredanier. Charlene Wolf Hall, Dean of the College of Natural Sciences. Dean of the Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College, Rebecca Bott Knutson. Chief University Librarian, Christy Tornquist. Dean of the Graduate School, Kenchel Dorner. And Vice President for Research and Economic Development, Daniel Scholl. Thank you for being part of today's celebration. I would also like to recognize and thank all the parents and friends and loved ones who are here to share this special day with today's graduates. You have provided your support and encouragement in countless ways over these past few years. Members of the class of 2019, that's you guys, please rise and recognize and thank your parents, friends, and loved ones for their support with a round of applause. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Thank you. We are honored today to have Robert Burns, Professor Emeritus of Political Science and Dean Emeritus of the Honors College, here to share a message with the graduates. Dr. Burns joined the political science faculty at South Dakota State University in 1970 and served until his retirement. In 1994, he was awarded Distinguished Professor and was honored as the South Dakota Professor of the Year by the Carnegie Foundation in 1995. In his last 10 years at State, he served as the first director and the first dean of the now Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College. As a 1964 political science graduate at SDSU, he was named Distinguished Alumnus in 2008. In 2016, he was inducted into the South Dakota Hall of Fame for his service to education. I was honored to have Dr. Burns as my teacher for 2 courses during my undergraduate years here, and he was an extremely effective and wonderful teacher. It is my pleasure to welcome him here today to share a message for the graduates. Dr. Burns.
I wish to thank President Dunn and Provost Hedge for inviting me to present this address as a part of today's commencement program. I regard the invitation as an honor. I can only hope that I will live up to the honor bestowed. On the occasion of my retirement from SDSU in 2008, my son John produced a delightful and humorous retirement reception video that repeated the theme, "You will be missed, but soon forgotten." His humor reflects the reality that great universities flourish as generations of students, faculty, administrators, and support staff make their contributions and then pass the baton to their successors who do the same. Still, it is good not to be forgotten, if only for one day. This is a very special moment in the rich history of South Dakota State University. At this event, we honor students of the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, the College of Education and Human Sciences, and the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions, who have completed the academic requirements for the various undergraduate degrees earned by you and awarded by SDSU through authority of the South Dakota Board of Regents. I extend my most sincere congratulations to each of you. I know also I speak for your faculty members in extending congratulations to you. For your success is their professional ambition. With those faculty present, please stand and be recognized for your professional mentoring and teaching contributions to the academic and human growth of our graduates over the last few years. Faculty and support staff, thank you very much. While graduates and faculty share great joy today, grandparents, parents, peers, relatives, and friends have filled Frost Arena to tell you how proud they are of your reaching this important milestone in life. Graduates, if I could repeat the request of President Dunn, please express your appreciation for their presence today with applause now and warm hugs later. In inviting me to speak today, Provost Hedge requested that I offer you inspirational words, not to exceed 10 minutes. The assignment is perhaps better suited for Coach AJ, as he offers his outstanding student athletes some final words of encouragement and direction before they return to the court to again defeat the Coyote women and ultimately achieve Sweet 16 status. It is a tougher assignment for someone who spent 38 years in the classroom speaking in 50-minute spurts. So let us move to those requested words of inspiration before my time expires. I have titled my comments today, "It is Your Future, Save It." The title is very deliberate in meaning. It presents you with a challenge that I hope you will accept, because our current generations of leaders are either unwilling or unable to do more than respond to the present-day demands of a long line of narrow special interests with little regard for the health, safety, and welfare of future generations. Your future holds no guarantees that the stable political, economic, and social order that earlier generations carved out for you will continue to exist. There's no guarantee that the physical environment in which we all live will continue to sustain us. We have come to expect that our representative democratic system of governance will have no end. We have come to believe that our free enterprise system, intended to reward the dignity of quality labor, risk-taking, and creativity, will always sustain a large middle class of Americans. We assume our many religious, ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and age differences will be tempered by tolerance and a belief that our diversity is the source of a more vital, energetic, and culturally richer America. We witness our earth sustaining life, and we assume that it always will. How did the current order of things come to be? Representative democracy did not emerge abruptly in our nation. It has unfolded in the New World in both a revolutionary and evolutionary manner over 4 centuries, with each step of the process involving struggle to usher in the essential elements of a modern liberal democracy that honors both the principles of majority rule and minority human rights. Likewise, a free enterprise system intended to share new wealth generated by the many stakeholders was not just parachuted into our land. Corruption, monopolies, trusts, practices abusive of hard-working men, women, and children, and other evils that threaten our well-being had to be reined in before a middle class could begin to take shape and flourish. Moderating the social and biological differences between us to avoid sharp or violent conflict was not the work of a magic wand. Achieving equality and respect for women and minorities has been a long and sometimes violent struggle in our nation. Efforts to achieve clean air, water, and land, safe for all forms of life, has been a long and frequently interrupted struggle dating back to Teddy Roosevelt. The achievement of earlier generations can be erased if we do not tend to and nurture those achievements in the future. As we survey the political, economic, social, and physical landscape that we all share, we do find alarming cracks appearing that need your attention, or your future will be threatened. Our representative democracy is experiencing challenges to a free press. The voting franchise of low-income minorities is being systematically suppressed and diluted. Political power is being increasingly centralized in a national executive, and the rule of law is being mocked by our nation's leadership. These are not minor deviations from our desired system of governance. These are the same serious breaches that have accompanied the assumption of power by populist leaders in former emerging representative democracies like Venezuela, Hungary, Russia, Turkey, and the Philippines. Multiple prominent economists have noted that our economy now disproportionately benefits stockholders and CEOs at the expense of the stakeholders of the middle class who produce the goods and deliver the services for our consumption. A call for social division and the gospel of white supremacy and ethnocentrism has regained a new legitimacy in our land. Ideology has replaced science and rational thought in responding to clear threats to the future of our physical environment. We can choose to ignore these present-day realities or embrace these realities as the proper path for the future, or you can join the effort to regain what ordinary persons, associating with other ordinary persons in pursuit of objectives big and small, achieved earlier in our nation. If you elect to join the effort, it is important that you aspire to achieve long-term political, economic, social, and physical environmental solutions, serving future generations and not just the immediate wants and needs of the present generation. After all, it is your future. For those of you choosing to work to reverse the current erosion of our nation's past achievements, your study and life at SDSU has equipped you with an arsenal of tools to proceed. Regardless of your academic major, you have developed keener writing, speaking, computing, critical thinking, and empirical research skills, broader knowledge of the natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities, and a wider understanding of human values and behavior. In addition, you have required specialized knowledge and skills in your chosen major. The 3 SDSU colleges represented here today encompass nearly 50 specialized areas of study, all of which touch upon one or more of the political, economic, social, and physical components of our environment. The knowledge and skills that you have acquired through your study will not only make it possible for you to pursue happiness and the American dream, but your acquired knowledge and skills have also equipped you with the tools necessary to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That is the challenge the framers of the Constitution assumed. 232 years later, we might accept a similar challenge or simply assume that all is good forever. I hope you will accept the challenge and couple your new knowledge and skills with your individual creative skills, your imagination, and your courage to achieve an even better foundation for being than you have experienced up to this point. In doing so, recall the words of President Reagan: "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." Now go always, be good, and be kind to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. We really appreciate your inspirational and thoughtful remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Bell.
The university takes pride in all of its graduates, but faculty and administrators take special pride in those who have achieved high levels of academic excellence. I welcome to the podium Provost Hedge, who will recognize those students graduating with academic honors. Provost Hedge.
Earning a degree takes hard work and commitment. A special group of graduates deserve extra recognition today. These students have reached the highest levels of academic achievement. The program notes those members of this year's class whose academic achievements have earned them the distinction of graduating with honors, as well as those who are graduating from the Fishback Honors College. In addition, SDSU initiates students into the National Honor Society of Phi Kappa Phi. Members are elected from every branch of the arts, sciences, humanities, and the professional colleges. Only those in the top 10% of their senior class are eligible for election to Phi Kappa Phi. This afternoon, we recognize those who have achieved this high scholastic record. Will all graduates who are graduating with honors, those graduating with honors college distinction, and those who have joined Phi Kappa Phi, please stand so that you can be recognized. We also have students from across the colleges who have prepared to become teachers. Will those graduates who have completed the teacher education curriculum for certification as teachers please rise so that you can also be recognized? And now, it's my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Sewell, Professor of Military Science for Army ROTC, and Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schroeder, Professor of Aerospace Studies for Air Force ROTC. They will recognize the candidates for commissions.
Thank you, Provost Hedge. It is an honor to recognize those students today that have received commissions as officers and second lieutenants in through both the Air Force ROTC and Army ROTC programs here at South Dakota State. For the Air Force, and please stand when your name is called to be recognized. For the Air Force, Jacob Carlson. Maria Corio. Bram Pickner. Amanda Raber. Mitchell Selkin. Coral Franklin. And Chase Meyer.
For the Army program, Guillerme Rodriguez, Nathan Stafford, Christian Trainer, Samantha Williams, Brandon Heitritter, Blake Hess, Aaron Holtzclaw, Emma Nyquist, and Trent Canupi.
Andy Folberg is a 1999 graduate of SDSU and President and CEO of South Dakota State University Alumni Association. Ms. Folberg will bring greetings to the graduates as they transition from students to alumni. Andy?
Thank you, President Dunn. Good afternoon, graduates. It is an honor to be with you here today and officially welcome you as you join over 90,000 individuals who have graduated from this institution. Your hard work and achievements have led you to this day, and we are very proud to have you as part of the growing alumni family. 19 years and 362 days ago, I was in your place, excited about what the next chapter would bring. Today, you ring the bell for the yellow and blue as you enter the next phase of your life as Jackrabbits. We at the South Dakota State University Alumni Association are excited to welcome you to the ranks of alumni as you join a growing list of staters who continue to lead their chosen industries and communities. This is a very special place. The people here have prepared you to do great things, and we can't wait to hear about them. When many of you arrived on this campus as freshmen just a few years ago, you attended Fall Convocation. At this event, you were given a unique coin. On the coin are the words, "Once a student, forever an alum." You were then encouraged to take the coin, drop it in a giant cowbell, and make a wish for your college career. Today, we'd like to think you have received your wish. After receiving your diploma today, each member of the graduating class will receive this coin from a member of the Alumni Association staff. We promised that we would return the coin to you, and today we fulfill that promise. And yes, obviously, it's the exact same coin. As you walk across this stage, you will be closing a chapter of your life, but at the same time, you will be opening another. As you leave this place as a student, remember that no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you will always be a member of the South Dakota State University family. We at the Alumni Association are very proud of you and look forward to helping you stay connected to your alma mater, and we hope that you will visit often. I would like to now ask all alumni in the audience, faculty, and staff to please stand and greet our newest members of the alumni family. Today and forevermore, you will be Jackrabbits. Congratulations, graduates, and best of luck to you all.
Thank you, Andy. Vice President for Student Affairs, Michaela Willis, will now introduce this year's graduating senior speaker. Vice President Willis.
An important and traditional part of our commencement ceremonies is an opportunity for a member of the graduating class to address the gathering. I am pleased to introduce Cannonbolt as this year's senior speaker, who will offer remarks on behalf of this year's graduates. Kevi is a graduating senior from Fergus Falls, Minnesota. She started at State as an electrical engineering major, but graduates today with an English degree. She discovered her passion for literature and writing through courses in the Honors College. Several travel experiences have given her the opportunity to combine her love of writing and interest in engineering. She hopes to continue that theme and someday be able to write about traveling to Mars. Kevi has shared her love of SDSU as an admissions ambassador and served on the Students Association. Please join me in welcoming Kevi Cannonbolt.
Today I'm going to share the most important lesson I've learned here at SDSU, and that is how to fail and how to succeed like a jackrabbit. As you know, South Dakota State University is the only university to boast the jackrabbit as its mascot. For those of you who don't know why the jackrabbit makes such a good mascot, I have some fun animal facts to share with you. Jackrabbits, according to National Geographic, can run 40 miles per hour, leap 10 feet in the air, and use a zigzag running pattern to evade predators. They do not hibernate in the winter and are in no danger of extinction. Did you know any of this? I certainly did not before coming here, but after spending 4 years with jackrabbits, the two-legged variety, I find this a very fitting representation of the spirit and resilience of SDSU students and faculty. Allow me to illustrate this by sharing a personal story that particularly sticks out in my mind as I reflect on my undergraduate experience. Some of you may remember a viral video from SDSU from a few years ago. For those of you who are not familiar, 4 years ago, SDSU was experiencing a winter very similar to the one we just survived. Despite the best efforts of our snow removal team, some stubborn ice patches remained in view of in some high traffic areas within view of the residence halls. As student after hapless student succumbed to the slippery sidewalk, some quick-minded and enterprising individuals recorded all the falls in a compilation video that quickly became a national sensation that brought delight to hundreds of thousands of viewers. As you may have guessed, yes, I was one of the students featured in that video. Some of you may already know this. Maybe you recognize me from the video. What a lot of people don't know is that I was actually in the video twice. I lost my battle with the ice, both on my way to the Union for my mid-morning bagel and on my way back. Now this brings me to my first point about failure, which is that sometimes, despite our best efforts, failure is repeated. And so if you must fail again, or in my case, if you must fall again, fail in a different way than you did the first time. Like the jackrabbit who zigzags to evade predators, change up your approach to obstacles. For example, the first time I hit the ice patch, I just surrendered to it. My feet flew in the air, and I landed on my back. The second time, I adapted. When I hit the ice, I did a little hop skip to balance myself, landed on my face instead. If Thomas Edison had been watching, perhaps he would have told me that I did not fail to walk across the ice. I just found 2 ways that didn't work. I imagine this is a lesson you all can relate to your own collegiate experience. How many of us, after failing a quiz or a test or maybe even a class, have said to ourselves, I'm going to redo that exactly the same way as before? Of course not. We signed up for free tutoring. We went to supplemental instruction. We stopped online shopping during class. Maybe we deleted Netflix for a semester. Whatever you did, your presence here today is a testament to the fact that you adapted and kept on going. You zigzagged past your obstacles like the jackrabbit you are, and I hope you look back on the various struggles you faced here and remember them for the resilience you developed in response. My second point about failure is that it's relational. It has the ability to strengthen relationships through teaching us grace and empathy. I was feeling pretty foolish about the video about my fall until I saw the video a few days later and realized I was in good company. Dozens of other students had struggled exactly the same way I had. I hope you look back on the various struggles you faced here and remember them for the empathy and grace you developed in response, both for yourself and for others. How many of us have needed to be reminded during our time here that you are not the first student to fail a test, to retake a class, to switch majors, to lose a scholarship, to miss a deadline, to transfer schools, or to be turned down from a job application. You are not the first student to experience heartbreak or to navigate the end of a relationship, nor are you the first to doubt your abilities and the success of your future. May I remind you of one of our most famous jackrabbits, Charles Coughlin, whose story I've told hundreds of times while conducting campus tours. Charles Coughlin, who for 37 years was president of the Briggs & Stratton Company, was actually voted least likely to succeed by his classmates when he graduated from SDSU in 1909. 20 years later, on the anniversary of his graduation, he donated the Coughlin Campanile to the university and later became the first distinguished alumnus of South Dakota State University. Jackrabbits, look around. You are in good company. We have all failed, but only because we are constantly striving for greatness. I could have stayed inside that cold, cold morning, but I would have never gotten my bagel from Einstein's. A weaker species than ours might hibernate, but not us. We stick around and face the winter, even when we know it will be cold and difficult. And this resilience and tenacity is the secret to our success. It's the philosophy that drives undergraduate inventions, like the Briggs & Stratton engine and cookies and cream ice cream. It's how you pharmacy students achieve a 100% pass rate on the NAPLEX. It's how you economics students achieve national acclaim by earning first place in one of the largest student-managed investment fund competitions in the world. It's our brand new Oscar Larson Performing Arts Center, 50 years in the making. It is Hobo Day, the longest-running student-led homecoming tradition in the US. It is essentially the heart behind our land-grant mission to provide an accessible and academically excellent education to anyone who is willing to face the winter and strive for greatness. So, my fellow Jackrabbits, as we look down the roads of our future, I wish for you all the safest and driest travel conditions imaginable. But as we in South Dakota know better than most, seasons change and roads do sometimes slicken. So, in the future, when you find yourself slipping, remember who you are. A jackrabbit who knows how to adapt and zigzag when faced with obstacles. A jackrabbit who doesn't hibernate, even though it knows the winter is icy and dangerous. A jackrabbit who belongs to a large and strong community of jackrabbits in no danger of extinction. Remember that you are a jackrabbit, which means no matter how great of a fall you may take, you are uniquely equipped to hop back up and keep on running.
Well, thank you, Kevy, for those inspirational remarks. It was just great. I am pleased to invite the Honorable David Mickelson of the South Dakota Board of Regents to the podium to authorize the conferral of degrees. Regent Mickelson.
Thank you, President Dunn, and good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today and greeting you on behalf of the South Dakota Board of Regents. We join your family, friends, and loved ones today in congratulating you on your achievements. The board knows how hard you have worked to earn your university degree. The board also thanks you for your commitment to higher education here in South Dakota. The state, the nation, and the world will also benefit from the success that you have achieved. A university degree is something that you will always have and can never be diminished. Please accept our most sincere wishes of personal and professional successes. Now, I'm relatively new to the Board of Regents, and this is my first commencement. I asked other board members for any tips for success and was told unanimously, keep it short. With that being said, under the laws of the state of South Dakota, as a representative of the South Dakota Board of Regents, I hereby delegate to President Barry H. Dunn the authority to confer the various degrees at this commencement. Thank you again, and best wishes to all the graduates.
Thank you, Regent Mickelson. The candidates for the associate and bachelor's degrees will be presented by the Faculty Senate Director and Associate Professor Brittany Meyer.
The students whose names appear in the printed program for this commencement have been approved by the faculty of the South Dakota State University and by the South Dakota Board of Regents to receive the Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of General Studies, Bachelor of Music Education, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Landscape Architecture, and Associate of Arts or Associates of Science degrees upon satisfactory completion of the degree requirements. Will those who are to receive these degrees please stand? President Dunn, I take pleasure in presenting these candidates to you in order that you may confer upon them the appropriate degrees in their respective fields.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. By virtue of the authority designated to me by the Board of Regents of Higher Education of the state of South Dakota, I confer upon each of you the degree Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of General Studies, Bachelor of Music Education, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Landscape Architecture, and Associate of Arts and Associate of Science degrees in your chosen fields upon satisfactory completion of the degree requirements with all rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. The candidates for these degrees will now present themselves on the stage for recognition. You will come forward by college and be congratulated by the dean of your college. Those of you waiting for your college to be called, please be seated. Individual graduates will be announced by Andrea Carlisle, Director of Forensics and Instructor of Communication Studies. Jane Mort, Dean of the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions, will introduce the graduates of the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions.
President Dunn, the College of Pharmacy and Allied Health Professions prepares pharmacy and medical lab science graduates with the knowledge, skills, and abilities to provide high-quality patient care. These graduates have demonstrated their expertise of the pharmaceutical and medical laboratory sciences and are prepared to pursue opportunities where they will improve the health of people throughout the state, nation, and world.
Bright Amazu. Kelly Armbrov. Abigail Block. Catherine Brummels. Jordan Buckles. Michael Carlson. Nikki Carr. Nicholas Cook. Colton Cunning. Sean Curley. Jacob DeYoung. Drew Diedrich. Ano Doe. Mackenzie Fireisen. Khalil Ford. Anthony Fontulakis. Samantha Franzoy. Seth Golden. Kathleen Griblinoff. Elizabeth Hansman. Melanie Heron. Kyle Hess. Sydney Hirschkorn. Kaylin Hookstein. Chase Kern. Samantha Hoppy. Ellen Holterstrom. Rachel Johnson. Sarah Jungers. Joseph Kyriakis. Kaylee Neefel. Lucas Kramer. Robert Kranz. Kayla Keene. Sandra Kudurebi. Alexandra Lackness. Anna Lange. Abby Lingle. Miranda McMullen. Ashley Milkey. Faith Mildenberger. Lucas Mitzel. Chelsea Morkin. Lindsay Neuenhouse. Christopher Wynn. Brady Peterson. Rachel Probst. Jenna Rathert. Kirsten Sankey. Kelly Simarad. Abigail Sharuk. Natalie Soval. Joshua Thoreau. Colton Trowbridge. Jenna Van Beek. Arthur Volkotrub. Tessa Weens. Shannon Becker. Katrina Bart. Sydney Bassing. Peyton Borboom. Brian Callies. William Chauncey. Rosemary Clausen. Haley Hansen. Aaron Heron. Madeline Jordan. Kim Luong. Hadley Meyer. Michael Miller. Amber Morgan. Heather Moser. Charla Sarda. Janae Osborne. Hannah Palmer. Catherine Strahl. Brady Van Klausbeek. Rachel Woodring.
Thank you, Dean Mort. Jill Thorngren, Dean of the College of Education and Human Sciences, will introduce the graduates of that college.
President Dunn, the following graduates of the College of Education and Human Sciences are prepared to enhance the human potential of our world in the areas of education, business, government, health, industry, and recreation through their professional roles in service to the global community of individuals, families, and nations.
Elatria Alvarez. Logan Amans. Kevin Anderson. Shelby Anderson. Rachel Adelsford. Zoe Barkus. Anna Barr. Amanda Bauman. Cassie Beckett. Adam Belhaj. Jema Binda. Emily Berzonsky. Keelan Bailas. Allison Black. Sabrina Bloom. Denton Bowes. Chase Bronson. Elizabeth Buckles. Jaden Buckley, Megan Bush, Jacob Carlson, Stephen Carr, Sydney Chamberlain, Hannah Christian, Kara Christians, Abby Christensen, Amanda Crawford, Kaylin Critchley, Michael Daniel, Riley Danielson, Caitlin Damaris, Benjamin DeMuth, Vanessa Derner, Ellie DeVry, Chinumzo Dejamo, Emily Donay, Kylie Dowell, Carissa Drackley, Carol Dreyer, Austin Drews, Ryan Irith, Carissa Idom, Isabella Elrod, Maisie Elrod, Jennifer Emery, Elizabeth Ann Esser, Herman Fennell, Ryan Foley, Kayla Fonder, Michaela Frederick, Paige Fromm, Madison Fagan, Jordan Gabriel, Samantha Garnes, Megan Geis, Ashley Gibbs, Nathan Goetz, Danielle Gotsleben, Kaylee Graff, Victoria Gregory, Molly Grell, Caleb Gunn, Haley Harderl, Zachary Hagan, Billy Halsey, Zachary Hamrick, Kendra Hanks, Marissa Hastings, Jacob Heidenreich, Vanessa Henricks, Zachary Heinz, Kendra Helmbrecht, Taylor Herrick, Annika Hippass, Brooklyn Hiles, Caitlin Hillerud, Tristan Hoffman, Francie Hoffman, Jacob Erickson, Alexandra Hossel, Anna Hudson, Taya Huther, Gabrielle Emberry, Kenzie Jackson, Amanda Jacobson, Fatima Javid, Allison Jensen, Serena Jensen, Tanner Jerome, Brenna Johnson, Brooke Johnson, Keegan Huff, Kendra Johnson, Destiny Jornby, Kenzie Jorgensen, Brooke Canas, Rachel Kegley, Rachel King, Monica Knudsen, Erica Koenig, Maso Kamikaze, Shelby Constant, Laura Kremer, Bobby Joe Kurtz, Samantha Lecter, Catherine LeMay, Gabrielle Lingerud, Haley Lindberg, Sophie Lund, Zachary Lupisha, Janae Martin, Rebecca Martin, Brianna Martin Moss, Isabel Molowski, Leslie Mathis, Morgan McCall, Haley Mellum, Jordan Manege, Nagriza Muhidovova, Madison Munger, Ethan Murtha, Hanoko Nagayama, Kelsey Naring, Alexis Nelson, Samantha Nelson, Alexis Nepple, Shannon Nesland, Joshua Nevin, Kajertsi Nitz, Bethany Norman, Trevor Novotny, Erica O'Gorman, Yapingo O, Dasha Oman, Asuku Ono, Lexi Olinger, Hunter Olson, Jasmine Olson, Tegan Olson, Yosur Omar, Christopher Padozowski, Matthew Pollock, Hajine Park, Youngin Park, Josie Perry, Rebecca Peck, Jordan Pierce, Alejandro Perozaro Agunodozones, Jade Peterson, Macy Petrowak, Aaron Punt, Ashley Rademacher, Angel Rasmussen, Nicole Rao, Jenna Redder, Kendra Reimers, Taylor Reyes, Brianna Renas, Peyton Richardson, Jordan Ringheimer, Alexis Ringnell, Darcy Roberts, Cole Rockefeller, Sarah Rockney, Maggie Rowe, Kelsey Rolfs, Rebecca Ross, Jacqueline Rothschild, Tristan Rush, Lexi Rust, Caitlin Ryan, Joseph Sabino, Faye Schmidt, Ty Schoenfelder, Connor Schremp, Kenneth Schroeder, Beth Schumacher, Nasya Secher, Mitchell Selkin, Zachary Sell, Rachel Shane, Amber Shea, Connor Shoup, Kara Shoup, Brandon Scheim, Alexis Scogan, Julia Sparling, Savannah Swinson, Miriam Stake, Jordan Steinel, Christy Steptoe, Haley Straight, Shaylee Struckman, Mason Sundevold, Aaron Temple, Elizabeth Thier, Brandon Thomas, Alex Thornson, Reese Tiernan, Daniel Tim, Kelly Vislar, Jacqueline Tott, Jack Tramp, Kara Trainhale, Anthony Tushin, Bridget Tushin, Marissa Vant O, Brianna Vig, Hannah Voss, Jordan Waldner, Michaela Waldron, Elliot Ward, Trevor Watson, Kelsey Van Lowe, Taylor Walker, Brenda Weber, Connor Way, Tyler Weir, Abigail Weiss, Tawny Whitley, Ashley Weens, Courtney Williamson, Danielle Wilms, Lindsay Whiff, Kaylee Withers, Nichols. Rachel Warmer. Evelina Wulzenwald.
Thank you, Dean Thorngren. The College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science graduates will now be introduced by Dean Lynn Sargent.
President Dunn, the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences prepares its graduates to lead with vision, creativity, and integrity. These graduates today are prepared to embark on professional careers that will shape and save the future of our state, nation, and the world.
Fatima Al-Sudwa. Chelsea Ducher. Camille Jane Ortega Erickson. Joseph Felt. Emily Metzger. Kendra Alvarez. Paige Barthel. Caitlin Britzman. Matthew Bruxford. Mackenzie Bursch. Laura Butterbrodt. Morgan Kaufman. Claire Duder. Genesis Duarte Vasquez. Benjamin Evanson. Sophie Felicia. Neil Felton. Abigail Gebro. Madeline Hackett. Jacob Harris. Magdalene Heiberger. Bridget Henderson. Derek Hernandez. Catherine Hoosier. Caitlin Hughes. Benjamin Hummel. Riley Awan. Michaela Johns. Brittany Kruger. Melanie Lowe. Maddie Loneman. Sloan Mack. Zulima Meza. Kelsey Miller. Ravi Penkanjalanula. Carson Pruitt. Emmanuel Riviera. Mattia Smith. Anders Svensson. Alvin Tragop. Hunter Tebben. Kevi Kneinenbelt. Rebecca Tobin. Amanda John. Sophia Valise Castano. Allison Vinson. Allison Weidenbach. Thomas White. Antoinette Williams. Mackenzie Williamson. Brittany Wilson. Mole Zarpella. Michael Albert. Janessa Amdahl. Thomas Bates. Kelly Blick. Alexander Burima. Derek Brown. JC Brunson. Michael Buell. Cody Bunger. Hui Chow. Haley DeVille. Aaron Drew. Spencer Bumby. Brooke Hockett. Keaton Huff. Monea Hutstoff. Kelly Jensen. Ellen Keena. Crean Kanopik. Cheyenne Kaufman. Kyle Kepper. Nicholas Lawrence. James Marty. Daniel Miller. Umbala Musa. Brianna O'Kirk. Sally Peterson. Cody Sadler. Megan Stenzel. Noah Ewing. Samuel Tusha. Christina Wagner. Abigail Vaz. Jill Warnakathine. Mitchell Walt. Abby Wolf. Nicole Wiffles. Gregory Zenz. Gloria Baski. Michael Bureau. Taylor Christensen. Robert Escamilla. Andia Hartland. Taylor Cafton. Megan Mainsker. Adoresas Payton. Samuel Raynon. Josephina Sabino. Eric Scott. Donald McIntosh. Eon Dolan. Joshua Godin. Bailey Hoynes. Peyton Schaefers. Dalton Smines. Michaela Stark. Jaden Chimperal. Connor Hansen. Austin Herbolt. Devin Melio. Jonathan Newswick. Matthew Olson. Candace Peterson. Katie Schlinker. Dual Shape. Ashlyn Turkildson. Samantha Ulrich. Samuel Oss. Madison Austin. Talia Austin. Samir Abay. Cole Atchen. Samantha Edelman. Samantha Alfie. Leah Anderson. Austin Ahrens. Hannah Bailey. Jake Ballon. Pollock Barmiaya. Kirsten Barat. John Begeman. Emily Boyle. Cassandra Braun. Taylor Bryn. Keyshawn Britt. Parker Brown. Rochelle Buckrer. Lauren Bisker. Emeritus Cancino. Carissa Castialja. Carly Chapin. Madison Chapman. Autumn Cogdill. Zoe Casado. Amber Cowser. Willow Coward. Catherine Crawford. Alexis Cushman. May Dang. Carter Davis. Mackenzie DeRuiter. Sam Diego Richards. Bailey Dittman. Katie Dixon. Thomas Dauberpool. Elijah Drake. Alyssa Dresser. Ruth Duziza. Alexandra Eigen. Shelby Erding. Caitlin Engelstad. Scott Ingen. Tess Instad. Jaden Everson. Alexandra Farber. Gwyneth Fisher. Margot Gianni. Alexander Garcia. Hunter Gary. James Gay. Carlita Gomez. Marcus Gravatt. Trevor Gunlicks. Landon Hamilton. Kevin Hansen. Kirsten Hansen. Summer Hardy. Skylar Harris. Riley Huck. Lucas Heiderschnitt. Peyton Hine. Aubrey Hendrickson. Danielle Hinkle. Tiana Holmes. Amber Hopkins. Jordan Holscher. Mac Ikimi. Deborah Engel. Romha Isaac. Chen Jen. Su Han Yo. Bryce Johnson. Cindy Johnson. Tennille Johnson. Whitney Keller. Jay Kelsey. Ethan Kettering. Adriana Klein. Alexis Klein. Nicholas Clarkson. Chase Knudsen. Zachary Kovach. Catherine Kramer. Kayla Krogman Glurbos. Tevin King. Tucker Kirkhove. Shale Crame. Magda Kruger. Taylor Cuck. Jade Larson. Nicole Lewandowski. Christine Lillo. Jackson Lynn. Anna Maher. Carter Malam. Ashley Martin. Jessica Martinez. Medley Umbre. Leighton Messner. Sarah McKellar. Michael McKenzie. Tommy Maher. Brianna Maidenwald. Anna Miller. Emily Miller. Megan Miner. Dylan Monson. Michael Montoya. Christine Morgan. Natalie Morris. Alyssa Mullaney. Jamie Mudweiler. William Murray. Miranda Nagel. Fabiola Marez. Megan O'Brien. Hannah Olabry. Raylan Omat. Morgan Oro. Tashina Osterkamp. Jordan Otta. Larson. Harley Petrak. Bailey Posale. Nicole Prinz. Kennedy Rapp. Joshua Ritzma. JC Rook. Connor Rude. Zachary Russman. Miranda Sampson. Lindsay Sandell. Mackenzie Schmidt. Brennan Schmidt. Jacob Sahlstrand. Kara Schneider. Kayla Schneider. Blake Schnorbrich. John Shaw. Jessica Schultz. Riley Sears. Corlette Sigrist. Kirby Selleck. Luke Sellers. Bobby Severson. Benjamin Shea. Jessica Singwald. Maitland Skinner. Trevor Smith. Soraya Sone. Laura Schroof. Megan St. Aubin. Charles Stephenson. Alexandra Setter. Alyssa Stevens. Jessica Stugard. Mason Sullivan. Macy Swanson. Braden Tassa. Megan Teppo. Rachel Thompson. Katie Thurigold. Reed Trainhill. Olga Sheila. Trent Van Rolko. Kira Vazgorka. Cooper Veldhuizen. Jaden Vermeer. Casey Vigorgan. Lisa Vajecki. Taylor Vogel. Caitlin Vortherms. Caleb Vukovic. Adam Walter. Abby Wiesbeck. Kaylee Windland. Trent Wheatley. Ashlyn Wickham. Joshua Wilson. Noah Winkleman. Rawson Yost. Bailey Zerfas. Mosi Ami Zuku. As part of the true Jackrabbit celebration, please join the symphonic band in the playing of Ring the Bell, our fight song, Words can be found on page 50 of your program.
And now we've come to the central moment of these ceremonies. If you have not already done so, I invite each graduate to move the tassel on your cap from the right to the left side, showing that you have officially graduated from South Dakota State University. Audience, please stand and join me in congratulating the graduates. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. It's been a real pleasure for me to preside at this 133rd commencement celebration. Graduates, you have now earned your degree. You have realized your dream. Let your imagination help you pursue an exciting future, and may your time as a Jackrabbit serve you well on your road ahead. Congratulations. The 2019 commencement ceremony for South Dakota State University is now adjourned. Please remain standing until the colors have been retired.
Also, please remain standing as the colors are retired and the platform party exits.